Hi guys, thank you for joining our webinar on how top gold lenders are complying with RBI's gold loan agreement rules. Before we begin, we have two house rules. Number one, this webinar will be of 30 to 40 minutes long, and we will have an open Q&A section at the end, wherein we'll give you mic access to ask your questions. But if you have any questions in the meanwhile, type them in the Q&A box, and we'll take it up during the webinar. Second, we will share a recording of this webinar along with the deck by Monday on your registered email ID. Cool. Here's the agenda for today. First, we're going to discuss RBI rules for all documents like KFS, valuation certificates, and loan agreements. Then we'll show you how top lenders are complying with them. Then we'll have a demo of how a compliant gold loan agreement flow should look like. And then we'll have an open Q&A section at the end. So, top gold lenders like SBFC, Utkarsh are executing compliant gold loan agreements via legality, as you can see on screen. And recently, a customer told Ganesh, CTO at SBFC, that sir, आपकी चाय तो नहीं आई, but मेरा loan disburse हो गया. So this is the impact that gold lenders are seeing with legality. And today we have Aditya, who leads marketing at Legality, who will be taking us through the compliance section of the webinar. And we have Subesh, who is the director of product marketing at Legality, who will show us the demo of a compliant golden agreement flow at the end. So with that, I would like to hand over to Aditya.
Thanks, Azima. Just to be clear, what we are covering, I will just wait for the deck. Yeah, just to be clear, what we are covering today is the paperwork requirement under the gold loan rules. We are not covering non-paperwork related requirements. So before that, I just wanted to start with the backdrop of the context behind these regulations. So over the past few years, RBI has been passing regulations for multiple loan products and lending in general. For gold loans, RBI has been doing the same. It first identified and brought to light irregularities in gold loans in 2024. Then it released draft directions. Then it released final directions. And finally, it consolidated these into its responsible business conduct directions. So gold lenders are now fully regulated by RBI. And what these directions did is they essentially took a whole host of directions, about 31 directions, and combined them all into a singular set of directions for gold lenders, right? So while we often say that in light of increased RBI regulation, the compliance burden has increased on gold lenders, understanding what this burden is, understanding what these requirements are, and the clarity behind it has actually improved dramatically by this consolidation. The core aim of these regulations is twofold. One is to curb fraud that RBI was seeing in the industry, and the second was to enhance customer experience and transparency. There is a third necessary implication of these two aims, which is that there is friction added for you, the gold lender, right? These directions are not intended to make life easier for the gold lender. They are intended to add friction in service of customers pausing and having more transparency. And ultimately, whatever gold lenders do to kind of bypass this friction, you really can't. All you can essentially do is implement it and reduce the friction needed to actually implement these directions, which is also something we'll cover in this webinar. The RBI gold loan rules for paperwork have a very specific operational impact on the specific way a gold loan is disbursed. So on screen is an abstracted version of a gold loan flow. Yours might be slightly different, but this is broadly the steps, right? And the gold loan rules can broadly be bracketed into two categories. Ones that impact the entire flow, right? Specific fields, need for standardized templates, vernacular communication, and ones that impact specific steps in the flow, right? Like the need for borrower presence during valuation, which impacts the valuation certificate, or the special needs for KFS, which impacts the KFS. So here's a visualization of how the rules actually interface with the gold loan flow, right? Which rules impact specific documents and which rules impact the entire flow. So you can see them here on screen. I think, yeah, there's a poll on screen asking you what are the challenges you are facing, which of the RBI requirements are you facing a challenge in operationally complying with. So we'll leave the poll open for 10-15 seconds. So a mix of KFS, a mix of all required loan document fields being completed before the borrower signs, right? Like actually ensuring that the complete set is properly created, generated, and signed. Great. Cool. I think we can end the poll. Right. So I'm going to start with the first two requirements. And I think 50% of you in the poll said that this is what you're struggling with, which is ensuring the correct fields are kind of filled in. So this section will help you there. So I'm going to start with the first two requirements, which pertain to the entire document workflow. And I'm picking both together because the operational way to comply with both is the same. And again, just a reminder, the solution we're doing here is not a theoretical solutioning. We have done it for multiple gold lenders. So what I'm sharing with you is actual operational workflows that we've implemented for various gold lenders. So the first step is to create a centralized repository of templates digitally for each document that is there in your gold loan flow. So loan agreement, KFS, valuation certificate, sanction letter, so on and so forth. The idea is that this central repository is what will be used across all branches, right? So branches or sub offices should have no control or access to the central repository. They should simply get the templates and be able to use the templates at the branch without any edit access. So once you have this central repository and this process in place, we come to the second step, right? Where you actually run a workflow to generate the final copy at the branch level on a case by case basis, right? Because at the central repository, ultimately all you have is templates. At the branch level, you actually need to generate that template for that specific customer, for that specific case. So on screen, we've laid out the operational workflow options you have. Again, this is based on real life implementations. We have implemented both, and these are basically the two ways to do it. In method one, you have your LOS LMS. It takes data, it generates the PDF at its end, right? So it takes the template, takes the data, fills the PDF, generates the document at its end. This document is then passed on to the document execution platform. The document execution platform generates an e-sign link and completes the document execution workflow. So in this flow, the templates reside in the LOS LMS, and the LOS LMS is essentially taking the entire burden of creating the document. In method two, the LOS LMS simply acts as a source of data and a collector of data. It collects and passes on data to the document execution platform. The document execution platform in method two hosts the templates. And so it takes the data from the LOS and LMS, fills up the document, generates the final document, and then generates the e-sign link and so on and so forth, conducts the document execution workflow, right? So these are the two methods. Now, this digital process, and we'll share this deck with you on by Monday. So if you miss that, we will share this deck and you can see that solutioning. So this digital process that we've showed you is not just necessary for compliance, and it's also like when you actually deploy it on the ground, it actually gives you significant operational excellence as we've seen with our customers, right? So that's the first requirement. I think 50% of you said, how do you ensure the fields are filled, right? So build that automated digital flow through either of the two methods that we talked about earlier. Next, I want to cover the vernacular requirement, right? The third of the five requirements we will be discussing today, right? So the RBI very simply requires all communication with borrowers in gold loan journeys to be in a vernacular language. It's a very clear rule and it doesn't just pertain to the document, all communication, right? But what most lenders end up doing is that the document is in vernacular. And I think like 90% of gold lenders do have vernacular documents. But the interface surrounding the document, like the document execution UI or the UX, is fully in English, right? So while the communication on the document is vernacular, the communication in the interface the borrower is interacting with is in English, right? This is one a clear gap and does not fulfill RBI's rule. But beyond that, vernacular just makes sense from just a practical customer facing perspective, right? Because around 3% of rural India is fluent in English and about 12% of urban India. And in some segments where gold lenders are lending to, this number is probably less, right? So we often take for granted that, hey, e-sign flow, I mean, the document is in vernacular, the e-sign flow is in English. So it's very simple. But to someone not fluent in English, the e-sign flow will look like how this flow on screen right now looks for you, right? We have rendered the full e-sign flow in Chinese here, assuming none of Chinese. So imagine if while taking a loan from a bank or a NBFC, they presented you with screens like this, where there's a set of key instructions and buttons that you need to kind of click on to enter into this commercially valuable transaction, this high stakes transaction for you. You don't know what it says, but the bank is essentially telling you, hey, it doesn't matter if you don't know what it says, just trust us. Go through all these screens of text you don't understand, click on these buttons you don't understand, do it, otherwise you won't receive the loan, right? It's ultimately quite alienating, right? So net, do not neglect the e-sign interface. Just because your document is vernacular doesn't mean you're like scot-free with this requirement, right? So an English only, because an English only e-sign requirement is not only violative of the RBI rules, which require all communications to be in vernacular, it just risks alienating your customer base. They will go to lenders which do offer this accessibility, right? We've often, in fact, heard that on the ground, that customers who are unfamiliar with the process ask for physical paperwork often. So how do you do this? We just told you in theory, like you need this. How do you actually do this? So there's two parts to this. There's a backend and a front end. In the backend, configure document kits in each language that you need, right? So you have 5 languages that you need, configure 5 document kits in that language. Again, remember these document kits will be in that centralized repository that we talked about, right? Either stored in your LOS or stored in your document execution platform. Then simply map each document kit to a special document execution workflow, right? Either in your LOS or in your document execution platform. Again, method 1 and method 2 earlier, right? Have the central repository of document kits, and wherever the document is finally being generated, have a specific workflow to generate the document in that language. Third, in the front end, build a language select screen at the beginning of the journey for the customer, right? Just like you've seen an ATM where it asks you to often pick languages before going through the journey, have this option for your borrowers at the beginning, right? And each button here should be mapped to the specific workflow we configured in the backend. So what happens then is when the borrower selects a language, that specific workflow gets triggered in the vernacular language of their choice and they see the correct journey, right? Again, building a vernacular accessible flow is not just needed for RBI compliance, but we consistently find with gold lenders that we work with that when things like accessibility and ease of interface are prioritized, customers actually prefer it and gravitate towards such lenders. It's a big competitive advantage. The next requirement, fourth requirement, pertains to valuation certificates, and this is kind of a unique one because like there has never been as strict rules about valuation certificates as there are today, right? So what the RBI essentially wants gold lenders to do is mandatorily ensure borrower presence at the branch, right? And if you think about it, this requirement is actually two requirements. One is you need to factually ensure borrower presence, like they need to actually be there at the time of valuation. Two, you need to be able to prove at a later date when the borrower is no longer in your branch, you still need to be able to prove to the RBI that, hey, on the date of valuation, the borrower was actually there, right? So both these requirements are needed. It's not enough to just have the borrower at the branch. Now, in the standard course of things, how do you ensure this, right? You may do it physically, but this requires a complex orchestration and multiple extra steps at the branch, right? So, for example, you ensure there's a CCTV there. You need to ensure the valuation is happening in view of the CCTV at a specific location. You probably also need to maintain a register where the borrower signs this timestamp. You need someone to actually visually monitor the CCTV, and you need to store and maintain this entire infrastructure, right? There are three primary issues with this. One, you are still relying on your branch to actually enforce your SOPs. Like, what if they don't do it in front of the CCTV? How do you actually, at a central office level, in a foolproof way, ensure this? Two, you're still relying on physical processes, right? A CCTV, someone monitoring the CCTV, physical register, maybe the valuation certificate itself. All of these add to your operational costs and ultimately increase turnaround time for the customer. And the third thing is it's ultimately a nightmare to actually prove customer presence later if you are so asked to prove. You need to essentially correlate things, correlate the register with the CCTV, go dig for that footage later. It's just a pain, right? So how do you do this digitally, right? How can you do this through the e-sign flow? That's what we're going to tell you about here. How a lot of our gold loan lenders have done it not via these physical things, but via the e-sign flow itself, right? So the first step to ensuring this is a feature known as geofencing, right? So with geofencing, you set a specific permitted location where the e-sign must happen. And if the e-sign happens outside that location, the e-sign is blocked. Whereas if it happens inside that location, the e-sign is permitted. So through this, you can essentially ensure that the valuer is present at the branch and e-signs with geofencing. And you can have the borrower also digitally confirming their presence via a digitally geofenced e-sign, either on the valuation certificate or on the agreement that happens the very next minute, right? You can correlate those timestamps. A second feature that can help you with this is a liveliness check, right? Where you can get either the borrower or valuer or both to do a live face capture at the moment of valuation. If the face is not present, or say it's a photo that someone is putting, the e-sign is blocked via liveliness check, right? So it is designed for an actual person to actually be in front of the camera, and you can match this with a face match as well. A third option, recently we did a detailed case study with one of our leading gold loan clients, SBFC. They didn't do geofencing, they didn't do liveliness check. They did a third option, right? They did Aadhaar iris sign, right? This is the least common method of Aadhaar. Everyone thinks of OTP and biometric when they think of Aadhaar. What SBFC did is Aadhaar iris e-sign. So via Aadhaar iris e-sign, what happens is the borrower puts their, like there's an iris scan, and upon authentication of that iris, the e-sign is actually affixed, right? Now, this method of e-sign itself is basically impossible to do without the borrower's presence, and it does it on the basis of a very unique characteristic of the borrower. So the very affixture of e-sign via iris itself can also be construed as proof that the borrower was present at the branch during valuation. So all three of these features that I've talked about now ensure physical, factual presence, right? They cannot happen unless there's factual presence in the branch. But there's a second part to it. How do you show the RBI later? And that proof lies in the audit trail, which needs to capture all three, right? You need to ensure a comprehensive Evidence Act audit trail with clear time stamping of each event and the results of the face match, geofencing, or other iris clearly laid out in the audit trail. We've also laid out on screen how an end-to-end digital process for evaluation will look. This is when we share the deck, it will be useful for you. But again, before we just want to move into a valuation certificate demo. But before that, again, these processes are not theoretical, right? So we're suggesting a certain technical flows. We're suggesting certain ways to do it. They have ways we've learned in working and partnering with leading gold lenders who actually deployed a lot of these ways on the ground. Now we just have one more requirement to go, KFS. So we're done with 4 out of 5. But before we go, since valuation certificate is fresh in mind and it's truly a unique flow, right? Before this, valuation certificate signing was not really a big deal in gold lending. We want to actually show you how it looks. I've talked about it in theory enough, and like theory is never a great way to understand things. So I'm going to hand it over to Shubhesh for a quick demo where he's going to show you how exactly an e-sign based valuation certificate flow will happen and how that actually helps comply with RBI's valuation certificate requirements. So over to you, Shubhesh.
Thanks a lot, Aditya. So I'll just share my screen. Let me know once it's visible. Okay, so what I have here right now is, so we've built like a mock application of what you would put in your branch apps or what you would put on website where people will come and apply for gold loan. This is like a mock version of it. This is not the product. We've made this so that you can relate to how it's going to work at your branch when the person actually comes to get gold loan. So the first thing, as RBI said, the language should be the one chosen by your borrower. So we've given them a interface where they can select one of the 11 languages which are most commonly spoken in India. Let's say I'm a person who understands Hindi and English, so I want to continue in Hindi. As soon as I selected Hindi, you would see my app interface also changed to Hindi. I'll click on continue. The person will apply for the gold loan by filling the application. They'll do KYC. They'll give you their contact details. And once all of that is done, you will probably then send them for gold valuation certificate. Uh, let's say this is the valuation that's been done. They have 3 items of gold available with them. There will be 2 signs which we'll do here. One will be the valuator e-sign showing where they are at this moment and verifying that this is the correct valuation that they've done for this particular gold loan. And the second e-sign will be by the borrower, who's also going to do a liveliness check plus a GPS location capture to prove that they're at the same location as the valuator and they're actively present. So let's start with the valuator's signature. So this is the first signature we're going to do on the valuation certificate. So this is my valuation certificate. If you'll see, this is also in Hindi because I had selected Hindi. I'll click on Aage Badhe. If I want, I can attach images in this of the gold that I have, and I can also attach an image of the person with the gold who's come to get gold loan. I'll click on next, which was Aage Badhe in Hindi previously. Now, what it is doing right now is it's doing a GPS capture check for me, or it's trying to do that. Okay, I'll have to just do that again. I'll have to enter this OTP. This OTP is optional. If you want to keep it, you can. If you want to remove it, you can. Up to you. As soon as we've done that OTP verification, it collected my GPS location. It shows I'm in this location as the valuator. I'll click on Aage Badhe. I'll give my e-sign consent here. And if you'll see, the e-sign consent here is also in Hindi. I'm going to show you how it works in just a second in the audit trail. Like it will get captured in the same language in audit trail as well. So I'll just enter my Aadhaar number as the valuator. I'll give my consent. So we're signing right now via CDSL. And if you'll see, there's some error happening with CDSL. So all I'll have to do is refresh this. So the valuator will sign this way. Similarly, once the valuator is done signing, the borrower is going to get a link as well. It seems like there's some error happening with the ESP right now. Yesterday also there were some issues happening with ESPs because of certain downtime on UIDI side. So I'm guessing that's probably what's happening. But in a similar way, once this is done, the e-sign will happen. I'll show you the Aadhaar e-sign when we get to the loan agreement part. But yeah, it's going to work very similarly there as well. Aditya, back to you.
Thanks, Shubhesh. So that's the valuation certificate flow. We'll also share a video of how it works with when ESP is back on, when UIDA is back online. But we'll cover the final requirement, the KFS requirement. Again, 50% of you said this is where you face difficulty. So the KFS requirement is very simple. Simply follow RBI 7 rules for KFS paperwork. I won't go through all of these. It's a whole webinar or 2 webinars worth of content. But we're laying it out on screen in front of you in an easy checklist. We did do a detailed webinar analyzing these rules before that. You can scan this QR to watch it. We'll also, of course, share this deck with you on Monday. So you'll be able to scan this QR then also. We've deployed end-to-end flows for multiple gold lenders on the ground and for KFS, for gold loan agreements. And everything we've shown you here again is quite battle tested. But I think I want to hand it over to Shubhesh again. Hopefully the ESP is back to show you how the loan agreement and KFS would also deliver.
Hi. Okay, so let's assume the valuation is done, and next step for them would be once the sanction is also done, that they'll have to sign the KFS or acknowledge the KFS. So let's say this is the valuation that KFS that's been generated for them. They'll view the KFS. This is the KFS. If you'll see, it's entirely in Hindi. It's pre-filled already. They'll click on Aage Badhe. They'll click on Aage Badhe and they'll give their recent consent. And within 2 steps, their KFS gets acknowledged. So this is an OTP-less quick sign that we've developed for documents like KFS, wherein you need a way to quickly collect an acknowledgement, but you necessarily don't need something like, let's say, an Aadhaar e-sign. But this is when you want to execute KFS independently. What if you want to execute it with the loan agreement? So what we can do is we can also create a document pack of both the KFS plus the loan agreement. So I've already created a link like that. If you'll see, I had received the invite on my WhatsApp. I clicked on that and I've come to this KFS, which is again in Hindi, and it is also pre-filled. I'll click on proceed. In the same journey, I'm also seeing this loan agreement, and this loan agreement is like fully stamped because this is a sandbox account. It says government of XYZ state, but in the live production flow, you will have the actual stamp with the stamp serial number, the state it is procured for. It will have a unique ID which binds this particular stamp to this document, and it will also have first party name and second party name as per your requirements. Even the loan agreement, if you'll see, is in Hindi. And if I And the interface also of the signing interface you can change to Hindi. I'll click on Aage Badhe. I'll click on OTP. This again, OTP is entirely your call. If you want to keep it, you can. If you don't want to keep it, you can choose to remove it. We do this just for additional security. If people don't want signing accessible even to a person who should not be having, you can choose from any of the four Aadhaar sign types available. You can go for OTP, you can go for biometric, you can go for iris, you can also go for this is a new way of doing which was released last year, face sign. You scan the borrower's face and you can do Aadhaar sign. This shows disabled because it requires an Android phone. You can't do it on a MacBook, which I am using right now. And same for iris and biometric, you need devices which I do not have right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an OTP based Aadhaar e-sign. I'll give my e-sign consent. Again, the e-sign consent is in Hindi. Yeah, if you'll see this time, because CDSL, when I tried last time for the valuation certificate, it did not work. System recognized that, and this time it has taken me to Protean. By the way, even on this screen, if you want, you can change the language. So I'll quickly enter my Aadhaar detail. I'll send OTP. This is also taking longer than what it usually does. I'm guessing again this is due to the recent downtime which was affecting Aadhaar recent services. Okay, so I've received the OTP. I'll enter that. And as soon as I do that, my loan agreement, I'm sorry, my KFS will get signed. I'll have to repeat this process for loan agreement. So yeah, KFS is signed in the same journey without leaving this interface. I'll now sign the loan agreement. Fairly similar process. Again, I'm taken to Protein because the system recognized CDSL wasn't working. And this took 2 to 3 minutes because I was typing, I was talking, I was explaining. But if you're actually using it on ground, your agent is comfortable with it, it's gonna happen within a minute. A lot of our clients, in fact, have told us that 2 minutes is the maximum time it's taken them to do a e-signature via legality. So yeah, this is also done. As soon as this is done, you'll get a WhatsApp. You will also get a email or SMS, whichever you configure, with all the signed documents and the audit trails for it. I'll quickly show you one document. So this is the KFS we just signed. This is pre-filled KFS. This is my signature here. It's validated via Aadhaar. And this is my audit trail. So this audit trail, it tells you what this audit trail is for. It gives you the details of the document. It gives you the consent provided. And if you'll see, this consent is also in Hindi, which closes the loop on vernacular requirement by RBI. And let's say if you stamped the agreement, so in the audit trail, you will also get details of your stamping, and Aadhaar e-sign details will be there. So let's say if somebody other than me who had these details signed, like Aditya, who was giving you the presentation over, if he had attempted Aadhaar e-sign using his details and not the details that you see on the screen right now, this e-sign would have been blocked. So how do you set this up? For this, you just have to configure a workflow. So let's say this, I'm on legality dashboard. You log into this, you go to workflows, then you create a new workflow. Let's say GL webinar demo. You click on confirm. Now, once this is done, it's up to you how you want to configure the documents. If you want to configure KFS and loan agreement separately, you can do that. But if you want to, let's say, do it together, you can also do that. I have KFS in the PDF already ready with me, and I want to do both of them together. So I'll quickly add first document, which is KFS. I'll add second document, which is my loan agreement. Now, my loan agreement also requires stamping. Stamping is as easy as just toggling this on, then toggling on series that you want, select a series and how many you want. You can also calculate this stamp duty automatically via what we call a rule engine. Basically, you just tell legality that for this particular state, this percentage of stamp is needed. Let's say in Maharashtra, you want to say for the gold, for the amount of gold loan you're giving out, you want 10% of that as stamp duty. You can configure that as a rule in legality workflow. And this, what I've done right now, selecting Delhi, selecting one quantity, this will get automatically selected for you without your agent having to do anything. So this is my loan agreement. So my document pack is done. It's our KFS and loan document. If you want to add DP and sanction anything, you can add to it. Then you configure the signers. Let's say my first signer for this is the borrower. My second signer for this would be the lender. For borrower, you would want to assign them both the KFS and the loan agreement. And you would want them to e-sign via Aadhaar. If you want to give them a backup way of e-signing, you can do that as well. Let's say you want to give them virtual as backup, you can do that. And it's basically up to you how you want to configure it. For the lender, you would want to have an automated signature. So you can just enable automated signature. And they will be then signing via either a doc signer or virtual signature, which is again up to you. Next, what you can do is you can also add security options to it. You can capture the GPS location and geofence it, like what we showed you in the presentation and in the demo before Aadhaar Sign didn't work. You can restrict it to India, or you can also feed the latitude, longitude, and the radius around that for which you want to geofence your resign to. Additionally, you can also capture the face and do a liveliness check and a face match. So you can, whatever, let's say I'm availing a loan during KYC, I would have taken a photo. You can match my photo during e-sign to this and it will be done. It won't allow if somebody else tries to do this e-sign if you enable this. And for liveliness, let's say during valuation, if the borrower is not present and the valuator just tries to put a photo in front of the camera to quickly proceed, they won't be able to do it because the person is not there. So it's up to you. Once you've configured the document, you've configured the invitees and the security settings you want. Last step for you is to just quickly see all of this. So this is my dummy stamp paper. This is my loan agreement. This is my KFS. You can drop coordinates wherever you want on this page on both the documents. Up to you wherever you want. And once it's done, you publish it. And next time you want to execute a document, you don't need to do any of this. All you need to do is run. Your agent will quickly fill in some values and of the person who is availing the gold loan, and that's it. They don't need to do any of the setting. They don't need to do anything else. It's as fast as like a 1 minute process. With that, the demo comes to an end. Aditya, back to you.
Thanks, Shubhesh. Thanks, Shubhesh. So just for ease, we've also prepared a checklist for you that kind of summarizes and collates what we've talked about in this webinar, right? If you want to build operational workflows for the gold loan paperwork process that comply with the RBI directions, we've prepared two checklists. One is the checklist on the previous screen, which is the checklist for the gold loan rules. And the next checklist is for the last item, KFS, the specific requirements you need to build an RBI compliant KFS process. So yeah, we'll share this deck with you on Monday. And so you can get access to these checklists. Again, everything we've shown you here is based on work we've done with more than 10, more than 15 now, I think, actually more than 20 different gold lenders in India. So everything we've shown you has been battle tested. Everything we've shown you has been solutioned with actual market players and is actually live today across India, live and working across India. As of now, there will probably be 10 to 15 different gold loans being disbursed at this moment where the documentation is being signed by through legality. With that, again, there are some solutioning flow documents here. So on this deck that we'll share with you on Monday, we've also given screenshot-based flows. So consolidating what Shubhesh showed you in the webinar in deck form, in screenshot form, so that you can do your own internal solutioning easier, right? So there's a gold loan valuation flow, there's a gold loan KFS flow, there's a gold loan sanction letter flow, DPN flow, agreement flow, right? And if you want more, if you want this analysis in more depth, if you want more solutioning, if you want more detailed solutioning, we have a playbook for how to build a paperless gold loan branch, right? It's a very concise yet deep playbook, which gives you an ROI analysis of the paperless flow. So if you need to convince and get buy-in internally, we give you a model to actually calculate ROI. It has step-by-step implementation guides with screenshots for various different gold loan documentation that you may want to take digital. It also has an actionable framework for you to select or build the right solution for building a paperless gold loan paperwork process. And it has some common FAQs about gold loan paperwork and the RBI rules contained in it. We will send you a copy of this book, a digital copy of this book, along with the recording on Monday. And if you want to sign up for our weekly updates, we do send about once a week, once every 2 weeks, we send a WhatsApp or an email. You can scan this QR code and join our weekly updates facility. And yeah, before we move on to open Q&A, there's a small poll. If you would like a one-on-one demo with us for your specific use case, do answer yes on the poll. We'll leave that poll open for a bit. Great. Meanwhile, while we run the poll, if anyone has any questions, do ask in the Q&A box, or you can raise your hand and we'll give you mic access. Right, we ended the poll. Yeah, we'll open the floor up for Q&A. You can either ask your question in the Q&A box, or you can raise your hand and we'll give you mic access. We'll be on for a few more minutes. Great, I think we don't have any other questions. So we'll end this webinar. Thank you so much for attending. And yes, do scan this QR code if you want more updates about our weekly webinars. Or not weekly webinars, weekly updates about things like webinars and case studies that we do. Great. Have a good weekend and see you at the next webinar.